We've got all our judges here. We've got the technology ready. We're prepared. So, for the third time, give a big hand for Juliana Lima.
So, hi everyone. How's everyone today? My name is Juliana, and thank you for being here today. I'm so excited to show my presentation that, in my opinion, can change the way that we think about financial institutions. So, first of all, I would like to express some points of view that what most people think about financial institutions and what those banks are doing to try to change this paradigm. First, I want to share why I chose this topic and how I thought I could show something else about banks, apart from being just a place where they take care of our money or a selfish company. So, as everybody knows, my degree was in business administration, and during my university, I had the opportunity to work in a bank for about 2 years. And during this short period that I worked there, one thing that caught my attention was the dissatisfaction that the clients felt from banks. People are not happy with the relationship that they have with their banks. We can see this by looking at the protest Occupy Wall Street that is going on now for more than 30 days already. And this protest began in New York and has spread for more than 1,500 cities around the world, including Tokyo, London, Paris, and Toronto as well. People are protesting and manifesting against financial institutions, and they say that banks, they are enjoying huge profits, and they are enjoying huge profits while the average American are suffering under high unemployment. So before I continue my presentation, I want you just to give a few questions about banks. You don't have to answer now, you can just answer later, and after my presentation, you can give me back, okay? To continue my presentation, because of the experience that I have and also because the protest that is going on now, this makes me think, why are people so upset and angry at banks? Unfortunately, for a long period, banks have been working away just to benefit the rich people and themselves. That is just 1% of the population. And also, they for a long time they were not worrying about to focus on the other 99% of the population, which are the ones who are responsible for paying the high interest. I'm going to talk about social programs in banks, and I'm here today to try to show that banks are not a bad institution, and they can actually be helpful to the society and not just take away their money. So I will try to convince you why we should start thinking that banks are a good institution and not just a place to save money or pay fees. First, I would like to begin ask you, how can banks change from being thieves to become a reliable place for people to use? The old bad idea that society has about banks, for a long time, financial banks have been just a place for the population to pay their bills, make investments, or save money. That's it. And also banks, they were just focused on money. The only thing that they were worrying about was to provide for the poor population loans with high interest, so this way they could do a lot of money. The population, especially the unfortunate ones, if you ask them if they had a bad or a good experience with their banks, most of them will come up with a bad experience or even just with a negative idea. Most of us don't have a good impression about banks. Most parts think that we pay high fees and we don't receive anything back. It's a money that has no return, right? So, but things have been changing. They realize that they need the necessary to compete, to attract new investment, and also to open a new market opportunity. They realize that to keep them alive, they need to come up with something different that other banks don't have, and also to keep the population with them and not against them. Let's move on to the next point. How are they doing that? How they can do that? To do that, banks found a way by working on a social and environment programs. They opened a new segment inside the institutions where the only priority is to focus on to helping and improve the community around them. Social projects like investments on education for poor kids, or even simpler than that, investment on recycle projects can change the way that the population sees and think about banks. Now, to make it clear and more understandable for everybody here, I'm going to choose in my presentation a good and successful project created in Brazil that has been using as an example for other companies too. So, Social Itaú Foundation. Social Itaú Foundation is a project created by Itaú Bank in 1993. Itaú Bank was the first bank in Brazil to start a social program using their own money without charging anything else from their clients. Projects like to protect and help the environment, investments on education, as I said before, and also investments on clean energy are some examples that Itaú Bank are using to help the community in Brazil. Countries like Brazil have a lot of social issues that need to be resolved, but unfortunately the government can't solve all those problems alone. So help from the projects like the one created by Social Itaú Foundation can make a huge impact on the society and also can make a lot of difference. Here, just like take a look on these data here. Of course, Social Itaú Foundation has many other projects, but for today, I just decided to talk about those three ones. Last year, in 2010, Itaú Bank spent more than $40 million on education, benefits 69 different institutions through the country. They spent more than $1.5 million on volunteer, and also more than $1 million on healthcare. Totally, they spent more than $60 million and a half dollars. So for me, I think it's a big number. The most famous and successful project created by Itaú Bank is the one focused on education. They believe that for a good development, they need to provide a better education for the new generation. So this education program is supporting public schools through the country, and in 2010, this project reached 98 public schools, impacting more than 140 million students until high school. the projects, they are focused on education or environment issues. But I think, in my opinion, they could also create a sports program as an incentive for the kids to do more exercise and be healthier. For most people to have access to sports, they have to pay for classes, and this can cost a lot of money, and for the most part of the population, they can't afford it. A good example of supporting sport programs for the community in Canada is the one from Bank of Montreal. BMO supports men's and women's team, national team, who represents Canada on the international field. Supporting the soccer team since 2007, BMO encouraged soccer teams between the age 7 to 12 focus on team pride, spirit, and also passion for the game. So after all these good ideas and investments, what are the advantages for the banks to do that? The advantages are numerous. Social programs can bring a good reputation and also branding for the banks. Therefore, they can change the old bad idea that society has about banks, and they can build a better and a positive image. Also, competition is another good advantage. Nowadays, as everybody knows, social and environment issues are something that everybody has been worrying about. And as we know, banks, they all offer the same. So they need to come up with something different to grab people's attention and also to bring more investments in. And in social programs is a good way to do that. This brings me to the end of my presentation. To summarize, I would like to say that my objective here was to show that banks used to be just a company where they were just focused on to make money, nothing else. But things have been changed, and they realized that to keep them alive, they had to focus on the other 99% of the population who are working to pay their high fees. So why not to provide the society some good programs? If the most important thing to do that, they already have. It is the money, right? It isn't going to cost extra money. Instead of that, it's going to bring more investments to them. And also, they are helping the population. So my last question here is, so why not start a social program? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Juliana. I'm sure everybody withdrew a lot of information out of that project. And I'm just going to keep going. So let's get some comments from the judges. Andrew?
Okay, thanks. Again, so I remember when you first started doing this, you just spoke so fast. You just kind of said it really quickly, like you read through it. And just the way that you slowed down like you did, and was really good. Nice pauses and everything. And probably one of the biggest issues with you, of course, was pronunciation. And I mean, it was such an improvement. I couldn't even notice really a lot of the words. I mean, you said 99%, great. Didn't even notice. Community, reach were pretty good. So yeah, that was very good. Nice long eye contact, I think. It was good. Sort of engaging the audience. At the beginning, you took the time to explain, you know, Occupy Wall Street a little bit, which we talked about before, and your statement about what you were going to say was good right at the beginning. So, again, mostly just the pace of what you were doing was such an improvement. You know, you said now, pause, I'm going to talk about it, whatever, and so it was really good. Thank you.
Well,
what I liked about it was you had very clear beginning, middle, and end. And like a good essay, you said what you were going to do, and in the conclusion, you wrapped it up, where the beginning and the end have to match. The middle is the proof. Here's my premise, here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I think you made some very good points. And then wrapping up and restating why you believed what you said. So it flowed very well, it was very logical, very progressive. You had a very confident presence. You walked the whole room. Your eye contact was good, so it was like you were thinking not to stand in one spot. So I noticed you were engaging the audience because you were changing your position. When you change your position, you're more able to focus on other groups. Let's see what else we've got here. You used the entire expression. You looked a little nervous at the beginning, but as you got going, you were relaxed. And you required very little use of your cheat sheets, which means you were prepared and very familiar with your topic.